thanks everybody for joining us today. This is perhaps a little bit more of a niche and technical webinar than we often have. So apologies if some of the content is quite dry, but I think it is really, really important that we share this with the community at the moment because we've been doing lots of um, work behind the scenes in working on bringing together consortia, working on proposals, which could potentially have some quite long-term implications for Europlanet and delivering the research infrastructure that you all need to carry out your work as planetary scientists. So 101, most of you know all of this, but just in case there's anybody here that doesn't, what are research infrastructures? They are the infrastructures that provide the scientific and technological facilities and services that allow you, the research community, to carry out your work. And they can be on any topic. There are research infrastructures on social sciences. There are research infrastructures, huge research infrastructures like CERN, single-sited ones. There are multi-site ones like ELI, the light source. There's distributed research infrastructures like Europlanet, where we combine the facilities owned by lots of different institutions and bring them together through a central portal. And then there are virtual research infrastructures as well, virtual access research infrastructures that provide access to data and data services. Sorry. So we're going to talk a lot about transnational access, or at least I'm going to talk a lot about transnational access over the next few minutes. And again, 101, this is a mechanism that was set up by the European Commission to allow researchers from Europe, but potentially from anywhere in the world, at all career stages, to have access to the best facilities, cutting edge facilities, niche, bespoke facilities that may not be available in their country to support the scientific and technological excellence and to foster international collaborations. So you, as a researcher from any country, can look at the list of research infrastructures and facilities that we provide through Europlanet. You can pick one that's not in your country. The transnational bit is a key part of this. You have to go to a different country. And you can apply you can put in a proposal, and if that proposal is accepted, then we will fund all the travel and accommodation costs for you to go and visit those facilities and field sites. In our case, we fund visits usually for up to 2 weeks, up to 10 working days. We're talking about physical, so the travel and accommodation. In some cases, the visits can be virtual, so you can work with the people who operate the facilities, who will do the experiment on your behalf, and that could be that you send them the sample, or maybe you go and deliver the sample, and they do some of that work remotely. But in the large part for us in Europlanet, it is about physical access, about people going and spending a week, 2 weeks in a laboratory or on a field campaign with researchers, getting to know them, getting to benefit from their expertise, their many years of scientific and technological expertise in the subject area, in running the facility. Um, and this we know from doing evaluation of Europlanet has been really, really beneficial to the people that have participated. So it's led to better science, actually going and sitting with the people in a room for a week or so. You talk through ideas, you can realize that there are better ways of doing things so that the science that comes out is potentially better than what you would have originally planned to do. The collaborations that result from the visits potentially lead to decades-long collaborations. We know that over 90% of visitors and host facilities carry on working together for at least a few years and potentially for longer than that. We know that potentially new avenues of research, 66% of people involved in TA visits report that they've come up with new avenues of research that they've then gone on to pursue. And this is also a really important thing for early career researchers, in that not only is it an opportunity to access state-of-the-art facilities on a relatively short timescale at a relatively low barrier as well, in terms of the application being a fairly simple thing to do. But it's also a really important way of building their international scientific network. We're going to talk a little bit about virtual access as well. So virtual access programs support fair access to data, services and tools. For Europlanet, that could be all kinds of data services related to planetary science, data repositories, visualization tools, analytical tools, and I'll come on to those a little bit in the future. And we've been doing this with Europlanet for 20 odd years. We started in 2005 and have been funded through a series of European Commission grants. That finished in 2024. And since then, we have been a self-sustaining organisation. We're a non-profit based in Belgium. And we're funded through contributions from our individual members, organisational members, which has been the key thing in enabling us to carry on these access programs, and also through a settlement that we get from running our annual meeting, EPSC, and a number of other sources. If you want to find out more about transnational access and the services that we've offered in the past and what the impacts of those are, we published a comment piece in Nature Astronomy last year, and the link is at the bottom of the page, and we will, I'm sure, circulate these slides along with the video recording later on. So this is our history. We started off as a coordination action, just bringing the community together because the planetary science community in Europe historically has been quite fragmented, and it wasn't until the Cassini-Huygens mission in the late 1990s and early 2000s that the planetary science community really looked around in Europe and realized how much activity was going on, and they didn't really know each other. And then since 2009, we've had this series of grants to help us grow this research infrastructure, including laboratories, for simulation and analysis, and then also planetary field analog sites. And the numbers of countries involved in Europlanet has been growing through that time, and the number of facilities offered has also been growing through that time. Since 2024, we have been, we established the nonprofit in 2023, ready for when the grant finished in 2024. We currently have about 730 individual members, and we have 17 organizational members at the moment from not just in Europe, but from all over the world. We have Colombian associations. We've got Korean Basic Science Institute that enable their communities to participate in Europlanet programs, and also, where appropriate, offer facilities for transnational access. Here are some pictures of transnational access facilities and people involved in transnational access visits, hopefully looking happy and fulfilled. We did a small pilot call of transnational access, we've been doing this for many years with the Commission's funding, but we wanted to check that we could do it on our own. So we did a small call last year and funded 5 visits. And this year we had a bigger call with 25 labs involved, which closed in March. We funded 9 visits through that to visit analysis facilities, environmental and hypervelocity impact testing facilities, and astrobiology and other space science related labs. And it's important in the context of this conversation that we are focused generally on planetary science within Europlanet, but we are very interdisciplinary. We work very closely with other communities, including the astrobiology community, the astrochemistry community, the lunar community, where obviously we have close overlaps, but also the optical community in terms of telescope networks, earth sciences, and many not so obviously related communities like cultural heritage that use similar techniques and instrumentation. So this is the list of facilities that we offered in our 2026 round, and a heads up to everyone that we are planning a second round, a second 2026 call, which should go live at EPSC or just after, involving potentially some new facilities that are joining Europlanet. So that's all been great, and we've been very grateful to the Commission for the funding, and we have been able to carry on without that funding to an extent. But what we have been doing now under our own scheme is to some extent quite modest. We're doing about 20–25% in terms of supporting the access, and supporting the other services that we managed to do with the EC grant. So EC funding is still really important to us, and we need to keep track of it. And when it comes to research infrastructures, the way that the Commission has been thinking about funding research infrastructures has changed a lot over the last few years. Their strategy now is very much consolidating the research infrastructure landscape. They've created many research infrastructures, especially distributed research infrastructures like Europlanet over the last 20, 30 years. Um, but they had a bit of a worry over the past few years about sustaining that because there were so many communities that were reliant on EC funding, and it wasn't practical for them to continue to support all of those forever. So they've changed their strategy. They're looking much more at consolidating and clustering activities together across thematic research domains. So to support that we're in the middle of a period where they have been issuing a series of interrelated calls to enable the community to organize itself around this new strategy. And these calls are going to be key in shaping the future of the research infrastructure ecosystem, probably for at least a good 10 years or so. And while they may change their thinking again in the future, really the direction of travel is very much in this direction, and we need to recognize that, understand it, and see how we can benefit from that. One of the things that is going to be clear and is already clear is that there is less opportunity to be a direct beneficiary on an EC project. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't still be involved. There will be more options to be third party. So this was something that didn't really happen under previous framework programs, Horizon 2020 programs, FP7, if you were ever involved in any of those. It's quite difficult to be a third party. It's going to be much easier going forwards. But it does mean that it will be much more reliant on cluster organizations that can cascade funding through to other organizations. And so Europlanet as a membership organization has really been set up with this in mind, that we can be that central hub and we can cascade funding, particularly to labs and facilities and service providers that may want to offer transnational access or virtual access services. The benefit of moving away from these thematic calls, there are disadvantages in that we don't get calls that say planetary science on them, or optical astronomy, or radio science, so it's not quite as clear. However, coordinating, looking for synergies across research domains also has its benefits. And I think over the past few months, we've learned a lot from working with people in the physical sciences and engineering domain, looking at overlaps, looking at where we share facilities, and can find potentially new resources for the planetary science community. The focus is very much as well about making it easier for generally for researchers to find things. So to focus on single entry portals and AI assisted tools that will mean that researchers can not just look at dry catalogues of listings of facilities where it's not really clear what facilities are and how they relate to their research, but actually to be able to do much more text-based queries about, what instrumentation can I use that would support my research to do these particular things. So that's all coming down the line. The other thing that's coming down the line in the next framework, in the next big funding round from the Commission, is technology infrastructures. These are largely being set up with the idea of supporting technology and scaling up technologies. We kind of do this already within the research infrastructures historically that we've had for Europlanet, for planetary science, in that a lot of the transnational access that we've supported in the past has been about going to visit facilities or field sites to go and test instrumentation for calibration, for technology development, to raise the TRL of potentially new technologies and innovations. So this is a slide that I've pinched from Brené Martins from DG Research and Innovation, who presented this to Eurolabs recently. And this is highlighting how these different calls that they've been putting out from 2025 to 2027 are going to be supporting this RI and technology infrastructure strategy actions. So basically bringing everything together towards a more integrated access scheme, strengthening the sustainability of the RI landscape, and moving towards an optimized RI technology development ecosystem. And that means pooling opportunities for funding. It means creating more stable framework for research infrastructures and implementing existing and new roadmaps, supporting the emerging needs of the various sectors, mapping what we have and making sure that that maps onto the funding and the users and the science cases. And then using tools like AI assisted navigation to make sure that what is there is accessible and findable and usable as possible. So, last year, there were a series of grants that prepared the groundwork for this. This year, there have been a series of grants that have created clusters that have brought together different domains and different research areas in preparation for this more integrated approach. And then the reason really why we're having this call and want to tell the community about it is in 2027, there will be some pilots coming up for large scale transnational access, virtual access calls involving these third-party users. So using this kind of new concept of clustered organizations, cascade funding, single entry point portals that should, in theory, provide a much more user-friendly, user-focused way of providing access to the best research and technology infrastructures and services for the benefit of the community. The projects that were funded last year kicked off in May, and there are three that are really important for us. One is called Access to Access. These are cross-domain, they're not thematic at all. They cover everything from social sciences, energy, environment, all the way through to planetary science. And Access to Access is looking at doing this user-focused analysis, looking at the mapping of what's already there and working out, creating roadmaps for how they can create a simpler, fairer, and more user-friendly system for researchers to discover and access facilities and services offered by European research infrastructures. FundRI is specifically looking at funding models, sustainable funding models. So the kind of things that we're doing with Europlanet is quite atypical. A lot of the funding models involve national funding, as well as European funding, regional funding, international funding. But they are looking at all these different types of funding models, how they can be complementary to each other, and how best practice can be shared amongst the community so that different ways of funding can be exploited to support the needs of the community. And then Cordina Innov is looking at the relationship with technology in preparation for these technology infrastructures, but also to develop closer links between RI communities and industry and SMEs and the relevant funding bodies and the potential technology infrastructure providers in the future. Now, I've mentioned these domains, these scientific domains. These are defined by this policy coordination body called ESFRI, the European Strategy Forum for Research Infrastructures. It's a bit of a weird one. The way that the science has been defined by it is not straightforward, and actually can lead to some gaps. And I think this is something that we've been particularly aware of in the space sciences. The way that it's looked at is particularly around big scale, large scale research infrastructures on the ground, often single sited, often very expensive, large scale investments that do amazing work, but doesn't really take into account so much the kind of distributed research infrastructures like we have with Europlanet and are covered by actually many other areas across all these domains as well. So there are 6 domains in S3: Digit, which covers data computing and digital, the physical sciences and engineering, energy, environment, health and food, and social sciences and history. You will note that the physical sciences and engineering is the only one that's big enough to have subdomains. So there are 3 subdomains within that: astronomy, astroparticle physics, and space science, particle and nuclear physics, and then analytical physical sciences. And as I say, it's been the what was included in the last landscape analysis by ESFRI, and particularly the one before, had some major gaps. We worked very hard in the 2024 landscape analysis to get space science actually named within the astronomy, astroparticle physics and space sciences subdomain. It was just astronomy and astroparticle before that. And we've also been looking at these diagrams that Esri have, which kind of describe the breakdown of the domains, and have realised that a lot of things have been missing within that. And so, as we go forward to the next landscape analysis, we're going to need to do a lot more lobbying, and we're going to need your input as well in making sure that this description of our community is fit for purpose, not just now, but in the longer term. The other areas, the other subdomains within the physical sciences and engineering are a bit more straightforward, though they have their own separate subcommunities as well, and there are tensions within that too. They tend to be clustered around different kinds of facilities, so they're set up in a slightly different way to the astronomy, astroparticle and physics and space sciences domain. They have their own issues as well. They're not quite as organized as we thought they were, but they are more organized. The analytical and physical sciences, analytical physical sciences in particular, has set up many with legal entities, cluster organizations around these different types of organization, like synchrotrons and FELs, neutron sources, lasers, and so on. And then it has an overarching cluster organization called ARI that sits on top of that. And we don't have anything like that in the AAS, the Astronomy, Astroparticle Physics and Space Sciences domain, which has caused quite a lot of problems in the last few months, if not before. I'm going to mention briefly this project Centric, which is what we've been working on very hard over the last few months. It went in on the 16th of June, but this is a project to consolidate the research infrastructure landscape across the physical sciences and engineering domain. And basically the aim is to create a policy arm, a technical arm, and a catalogue, a service catalogue for the PSE domain. That's user focused and widens participation. So this project is structured around four work packages. One is to do this policy coordination, to set up the structures needed for this big and very diverse cluster of research infrastructures that cover the physical sciences and engineering domain. I'll come on to what's needed as well within that for the astronomy side of things and planetary science side of things in a little bit. The real meat of this project is going to be to create this service catalogue. So a way of enabling researchers to pull up information about the facilities, the transnational access opportunities, the data services related to their research in the physical sciences and engineering. And they're going to do this by creating this knowledge platform, which will draw on things. They're not going to create everything from scratch. It's not going to be about creating a new catalogue in itself. It's going to be about using the portals that are already existing, like the Europlanet portal, and using AI to make it easier to discover, for users to discover opportunities for them. Work package 3 is one that Europlanet is co-leading, and this is about basically community building, so creating a cooperative space for the physical sciences and engineering domain. So what can we learn from each other? We're going to be setting up a series of task forces looking at key areas of European priority, like quantum, like AI, like advanced materials, and industry. We're going to be looking at interoperability of data. It's particularly important for the astronomy community because we don't have any OSC astronomy nodes. It's a way of looking at how we can or there will be money for networking, for workshops to get us on the pathway to setting that up. There's a bit of money in there for federating the optical astronomy community because they need a bit of extra support. And I'm sure that there will be training opportunities and networking opportunities and things that we need for the planetary community, and particularly sort of consolidation with other areas in space sciences as well. And then obviously there'll be a management and communications work package as well. The whole thing is going to be coordinated by CERN. So it'd be interesting for us as well to be working with big organizations like that. So the benefits for Europlanet of being involved in Centric is a complicated diagram that kind of pulls out all the kinds of things that we're supposed to be doing within that. But really the key things for us are about organizing ourselves and getting our voice heard within the astronomy, astroparticle sciences, and astroparticle physics and space sciences community, because historically we haven't been very well connected in that. And already out of this centric project, we've had the bones of a European Astrosciences Forum being set up. This PSE knowledge platform will be a way of getting our facilities better known within the related communities related to planetary science. So we're not just reliant on our community and our networks, but we can share that information with a broader, wider European community. Cracking some of these nuts for interoperability and setting the foundations of an EOSC astronomy node are going to be important too. And preparing ourselves for these things that are coming down the line, like quantum and AI and advanced materials and so on. Just briefly to touch on the Eurosciences, the European Astrosciences Forum. We had the first meeting in preparation for this at the European Astronomical Society meeting a couple of weeks ago. There will be further meetings in the autumn and in December to work on continuing how to set that up. This isn't going to be a new governance structure. Really, the aim is to have a forum, literally a forum, a talking shop where all the different actors, which could include agencies and international governmental, intergovernmental organizations, strategy organizations like Astronet, the research infrastructures, the networks, the deliverers of transnational access, and all the other communities like IANA, the societies, European Astronomical Society, and so on, the users can all get together to make sure that our needs are being heard, developments are being shared, best practices being shared, and that there is an opportunity or at least a mechanism whereby if we need to come together to produce a coordinated position, or if external bodies, the European Commission or someone needs to come to a single contact point, then it can come to it through the EAF. And it will enable us to have an analogous structure to some of these other domains as we've been talking about. And the policy board, the structures within Work Package 1 of Centric will feed into this, but this is really looking beyond the Centric project and preparations for this InfraServe, this delivery of access in the future. So this should be something that we've needed. It's actually been something we've been campaigning. Nigel in particular has been campaigning for a long time. So it's really good to see that something is happening, maybe not as quickly as we would like, but something is happening that will enable communities that we should be working with to work together better. I won't go into this box, but in the slides that will be shared, if you want to look at it, you will be able to dig into it. And if you have questions about it, then I'm very happy to answer those offline. Stavro, I'm going to hand over to you to talk about another project that we've been involved in putting together that's actually kind of come about through some of these synergies of working with the ESRF, the European Synchrotron for Research Facility, which is based in Grenoble. So Stavro, are you there?
Yeah, thank you very much, Anita. Practically, I would like to give you an example of another project that we participated in this call, which is the call of Horizon Infra 2026 Tech call that you can see in the upper right on the slide. So what stands for ECOMET? So it's the initiative of European Hub for Complex Extraterrestrial Materials Characterization that you can see here on the slides. You can see the list of the main objectives of this project. It's a very good example, actually, what is the heritage, what we got with Europlanet over the years that actually I need to explain clearly in the beginning, and actually what we are driving in the future based on our knowledge to be involved in the European Commission projects, especially in the new conditions in the new landscape that they propose. So practically, ECOMET is actually European research infrastructure for integrated multi-technical characterization for very sensitive extraterrestrial materials. What is important, Europe lacks such kind of coordinated framework, and mainly for keeping this extraterrestrial material analogs that can be, it's a question of the curation of this material, and not only to synchronize all the studies that we can get, like a scientific return, but maybe to create the infrastructure that we can keep these samples safe and not contaminated in order for future exploration. So as you see, the most important, one of the key objectives of the project is to preserve the integrity of these samples returned from the space, and mainly to all the process from the transport to maintain all the containment protocols that are needed in order to keep these samples in a very good conditions for the long-term exploitation. Of course, the project, as most of the projects of European Commission, it's about the sustainability infrastructure that can maintain such kind of activities. So it's very much involved with the other infrastructure, research infrastructure, and EPN campus ecosystem to, of course, coordinate cross-facility workflows. What is important also that this project actually combines also different laboratory facilities, and especially for synchrotron neutron laboratory methods that can support the development of this instrumentation in the future. What else is important that in the project we have also the objective of strengthen the European scientific capacity of curing these samples, and to give also data for and results for the other fields. As Anita mentioned, now all the European Commission funds, they are more about the interdisciplinarity approach in the communities. Here, so you can see a different, actually, an image that explains. I'll not go into the details because of the lack of time, but of course, what you can see here is that we have completely different packages. The project is a project that usually, yes, thank you, Anita.
Yeah, okay.
It's very much connected with the normal approach that usually is taken in this case, in this kind of project. So you can see here different working packages. So working package 1 stands for the management. We have the integrated multi-technique framework and workflows in working package 2. After designing cross-facility infrastructures, we go to advanced containment, transport, and handling of the samples, laboratory analysis, and after that we go to the operational the demonstration, user access, and exploitation. That is very important because actually the key role now, I'll touch on the where we are and within the project. Practically, we were invited to collaborate based on our experience on the management and communication dissemination in working package 1. We have support of the design cross-facility infrastructure with also collaboration of partners of Europlanet through the years, like, for example, the University of Bologna. We have also a strong actually presence in the work package 5 and work package 6, because actually, as what Anita said, this is also confirmation, this invitation, and this is something what we want to have like a policy in the future, and it's our legacy, like organization. Users is a very important part of this project. So all operational demonstration to the community, all user access exploitation, this all much connected with this project, and we were fully present in this. For example, one of the tasks, yes, please, for the next, yes, here is just the timeline. As you see, there is a Marcos prototype, which stands for the key equipment that will be produced within this proposal. But actually, we have a task here. Maybe it's not listed exactly, but we are leading the task 6.4, which is the exploitation roadmap, sustainability, operational transition strategy. And it regards the last, actually, from month 30 to 30th to the 48 months. So it's for this project. And what is the main task, of course, is to identification of the exploitable results, possible industrial take opportunities, technology transfer pathways, and everything much involved with the future European infrastructure investment. Of course, we have some operation from the scientific part based on our knowledge, and of course, the main what actually Nigel is guiding this for many years for the or the transnational access. So the last slide. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so maybe I'll hand over to Anita. Thank you, Anita.
Hi, sorry, Stavro. I don't know whether I missed a slide within that, but Stavro, if you have further things that you want to share, then we can do that at the
No, no,
end.
no, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Okay.
Actually, this was the main thing. Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Stavro. Okay, so these proposals went in on the 16th of June. These are the highlighted ones. There were many others that also went in that are relevant as well to us, and we will be interested in monitoring the outcomes of those because we will need to interact with them. The infra dev one, so centric, 8 proposals were submitted and 6 will be funded. So I think we're pretty sure that ours is the only physical sciences and engineering one. So we hope that there's a pretty good chance that it will be funded. Probably the worst case scenario might be that we are, if we're the lowest rank, then we may be put on a waiting list and well, the European Commission sees whether it can find the funding to support it. But fingers crossed that that will go ahead. The Infratech one, as Stavros just outlined, it's potentially a really exciting opportunity for us. The Ecomet proposal got about a 1 in 10 chance. 89 proposals were submitted, and funding for 9 will be available. We're expecting to hear the results in November, and we will keep you posted on those. But then all of this as well feeds into this other call, which is going to be coming up in 2027. The call will open in March, it will finish, it will close on the 15th of June. So a similar kind of timeline with the results announced in November next year. And this is pilots, large scale pilots of access to more integrated research infrastructures and their services. And the expected outcomes are more efficient access to the best research infrastructures available to researchers and innovators, a single entry point, integrated or interoperable catalogues of services, moving towards a more sustainable program of access to research infrastructures across the different S3 domains, supporting breakthrough and leading edge research by through RI services, including in emerging areas and made available to a wider community. Training a new generation of researchers and facility operators as well, and then creating more synergies across domains, creating more interdisciplinary sharing information, knowledge transfer, best practice technologies across different scientific fields. And the specific scope will be to provide transnational access, and that could be on-site access or remote and or virtual access. For us, it will definitely be and virtual access because we're going to be working on this, the physical sciences and engineering domain and the digit people, the digit domain. So we'll be working together and it will definitely be transnational access and virtual access, provided by a core set of state-of-the-art research infrastructures as beneficiaries, and then a suite of third-party facility providers who can be accessed on demand. We'll have to have at least 2 big projects, so S3 landmarks or ERIC, so these big nationally funded big projects defined by S3 as landmarks as critical to European research infrastructure landscape. So things like CERNs, certainly many of those will be included. We will need to provide training and technical support for users, widening participation, particularly supporting early careers, focus on this data management, interoperability, connection of digital services. And this is, for us, it's going to be really important to prepare this framework for an astronomy EOS node and getting planetary related data into that. But the good thing is that we don't actually have to say for sure all of the infrastructures that we're going to include in this when we submit the proposals. We need to include an indicative list. So this is the work that needs to go on. This is how they see it. And this is really, I think, guiding where we are at the moment and what we need to do over the next few months. We need to know from you, the community, what you need in terms of research infrastructure. We need to know from the facility providers what we can offer. And then we need to make sure that we have that broad catalogue prioritized so that when we go and we talk to the other domains, we can fight our corner, or we can make sure that the needs of our community are well represented within that, that We are well prepared in terms of what's needed from the legal perspective, from the financial perspective, in how we operate this third party agreement, so that we can share that information with you and make sure that you are all set up for that, and make sure that we are basically serving the needs of the users within the planetary science and related communities. So the bottom line is this: Europlanet can provide a legal entity to cascade funding to members as financial support to third parties. So if you as an organization are not going to be able to be a beneficiary, then Europlanet or other organizations, it's not going to be just us. And in some cases, it may be that you are part of another cluster organization, for example, LEAPS. Um, that will provide an access route for you as a third party. But Europlanet can certainly do that through our facility programs that we are offering at the moment, our transnational access program. These are really important to enable us to demonstrate to the wider community that we have tried and tested mechanisms for offering transnational access to a really broad variety of infrastructures, and it's growing all the time. We've got much broader actual research infrastructures and facilities included now within the TA programs that we offered this year than we had during the RI services. We've got the neutron and muon source, ISIS source in the UK. We've got JIVE, the radio telescope, or very long baseline interferometry service provider. So there's all kinds of different things that we're bringing in, potentially lunar analogs, isolation crew support units, all kinds of things like that. So basically, we need to ensure that we have the flexibility to adapt to emerging needs and capabilities. As Stavros said with Ecomet, being involved in these discussions is a really good way of bringing in and being able to form consortia in other areas in response to other kinds of EC bids. And there's one coming up on the 3rd of September. And if you're involved in that, what's one under the Space Cluster 4 for exploitation of space data. If you're involved in that, we'd really like to know about it just for information. But the real message is this: is the landscape has changed. We're never going to get the same planetary focused calls that we've had in the past. We need to be able to change with it, and make sure that we as a community are set up and prepared for it. So if you are not a member of Europlanet, then please do consider joining us, either as an individual, which then means that you have opportunities to access any of our programs, including access to facilities in the transnational access programs, or as an organization, whereby as an organization all your staff can benefit from the benefits of being involved in Europlanet, and your facilities can be involved in these broad networks, can develop these international collaborations through TA and other access programs in the future. And finally, just a last plug: if you haven't already registered for EPSC, it will be taking place from 6th to 11th of September. It's the largest now international meeting of planetary scientists. We're expecting over 1,200 participants this year. So please do come. It's an in-person meeting. It's also hybrid, but registration is now open and the early bird deadline is the 31st of July. So many thanks. Thank you. And with that QR code, you can find out more about Europlanet and the benefits of joining. So thank you. Do you have questions?
Thanks, Anita and Stavro, and thanks Nigel and Barbara as well for helping with the preparation of that presentation. We now have time for questions. I note that we don't have any open questions in the Q&A or in the chat at the moment. I invite all of you participants to post your questions in the Q&A, preferably, because they'll be easier to find. But in the meantime, I'm glad you've raised your hand, Nigel, because my plan was to hand over to you for some remarks while we get some questions going in the chat. Nigel, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say sort of three things. First of all, this is going to be an onward journey. It's a very changing community landscape, but it's absolutely vital. We aim in Europlanet, and have for many, many years, to ensure that the European research community, planetary science community, can conduct its research in the broadest possible way. Transnational access, we've had hundreds of these programs with corresponding hundreds of papers produced. Many of you have benefited from them, and we want to ensure that continues. but it's not going to be done in the same way as before. We're never going to have another kind of Europlanet RI 4.0 or whatever. It's going to be different. But that's where we also need your help. I want to give credit particularly to Anita, who has worked tirelessly in the last few months on ensuring that Europlanet is a voice at this table. It's not easy. Any negotiations and discussions with our colleagues is full of interesting discussions. She's done it in very good grace, but she's also been very clear about trying to make sure that Europlanet is represented at those discussions. And we have won that. We've done that. We've got that in there. But for all the people online, when you're thinking about this, we also do need you. At EPSC, we will again make a call for people to help with the management, the administration of Europlanet. We have a very small office, Callum, and but there are lots of ways that you can participate. Get your institution to join so that you can participate as an institutional member as well as an individual member. But as an individual member, we need the regional hubs to work. They don't work as well as perhaps we would like them to, because again, next year, we will really be doing more and more of these types of calls to make sure that when these calls come out, that Europlanet, the planetary science, and related areas, be it lunar or astrochemistry or astrobiology, are represented in those fields. But we can't do it all for you. We don't have the knowledge or the expertise of all these areas. So, but it is the way that we can compete and we can put these bids in and help you if you are writing bids. So those of you who are on the call today, you're interested because you've turned up, please use this meeting, come to us and say that you'll help us in doing these things and encourage your colleagues to do the same, because we can't do it all. We do need your help.
Thanks, Nigel. We do have our first question in the Q&A tab. It's from Javier. Thanks, Javier. Javier asks, "Hi all, thank you for the information. Interesting but really complex. My question is, do you plan to open a channel so the community can share what the necessities are regarding innovative research facilities in our fields, or should we share this with you directly?" I suppose this is mostly for you, Anita.
Thanks, Javier. I think we can certainly use Discord for this. We can certainly start a conversation on that. But I do also think that if you can send stuff, share stuff with myself, with Nigel, with Stavro. Actually, we have a distributor, the infrastructure at Europlanet.org. If you can send information to that and can encourage your colleagues to share information through that as well. Very, very, as you say, it's really complicated, and it's been a really steep learning curve, I think, for me over the past 6 months in getting to know who the players are, getting to understand, we have completely different languages from our colleagues in the particle physics and nuclear physics and analytical conversations at times. We're just talking about a user, what we mean by a user, what we mean by interoperability, what we mean by communities, completely different things, even, basic terminology. So I think it is really important that we have lots of discussions. If you want to talk to us individually about it, if you want to talk about how your facility can get involved, how you can get involved, drop us a line. We will set up a chat with you. As Nigel says, EPSC will be a key platform for talking about this. On the Friday, we are going to invite the astronomy people from the key players from this European Astronomy Forum, Astrosciences Forum, particularly involved in this InfraServe bid, to come to EPSC, because I don't think they really get their heads around how big we are, the planetary community, how organized we are, how interdisciplinary we are. So getting people from ESO, getting people from SKA, getting people from the big telescopes, getting people from these other areas, from Jive, from RadioNet, from all these different areas, getting them to come to EPSC to meet you guys is really important to see you guys, to see the poster sessions, to see some of the things that we're presenting on the morning briefing stage, just to kind of get a sense of that the dynamism and the creativity and the community focus that we have in within the Europlanet family. I mean, I think they will, quite frankly, I think that their socks will be blown off by it because it's not like the EAS. I think we are very much a more bottom up, very much more collaborative, but we need to make the most of that now because it cannot be me and Nigel and Stavro making all the decisions about this. We are not qualified. We do not want to be qualified. And we also, we've really gone into this with an approach of not just talking for ourselves. I've been over the past few months, I've really been trying hard not just to wear my Europlanet hat, but to be space science or optical telescopes or whatever distributed research infrastructures, whatever people aren't really getting their voice into the conversation to make sure that we are making that space for the communities because we are not about research and we're not about a big thing like the square kilometre array. That's not how we work in our communities. Even within the missions, even with the big expensive missions, those change over time. They can get scrapped. It's a complicated scenario. We are much more about the community, and we have a big community that we need to represent that does really inspirational, high impacts research, and we need to make sure that you are protected, that you are supported, and that you are given a voice, not just now, but going forward into the future. Because you're an amazing group of people that do absolutely amazing things and provide really impactful things in society. Search for Life, we have big impactful things. Apophis, coming through between us and the moon. These are things that are in the public domain, are things that people public should know about. They're not necessarily sort of day-to-day things like health or food or environment, but they are very much in the public interest and public domain. And particularly in terms of space safety, space situational awareness, space weather, asteroid tracking, satellite tracking, all of these things we have relevance, that we need to make sure is known about, awareness is raised, and that we have the facilities to make sure that the community is supported in doing what it needs to do.
Thanks, Anita. Stavro.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I want to add something also about exactly what Europlanet is going to be. It is, and it's going to be. As actually Nigel and Anita said, the landscape changed completely. Europlanet started like a research infrastructure project, but Europlanet is bigger than that now. And as Anita explained very clearly, it's more bottom-up approach based on the heritage that we get, and actually meeting somewhere from top down with the heritage that we have with the core services of Europlanet, that actually based on this knowledge, Anita and Nigel, and we were invited like Europlanet within this European Commission calls, actually ensures that the knowledge that we have and the experience and the heritage that we had from the top-down approach with the core services meets from the bottom-up approach. And actually, that's why it's not already project-based community. It's community which looks for different opportunities. We are in negotiation with space agency also. We rely very much on you like membership organizations and individual members, because we want to build really the society will have it. We want to build this community on the request and to deliver the things that we have been doing over the many years, actually over the last 20 years within the Europlanet. Yes, Anita, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I mean, I just wanted to say, I mean, the bottom up and the top down point is really important. And the good thing about the way that the Commission has envisaged things going forwards is it's not a closed shop anymore. It's not a case that you have to be a beneficiary, that you have to have the admin that can deal with all the real complications of, all of the financial reporting and all the rest of it. I mean, obviously you have to have, some infrastructure in place to make sure that you deliver what you're supposed to deliver. But it will be possible for you to propose new facilities that come online, to ask for new facilities that we can make sure are highlighted and needed by the community. But as Stavros says, as Nigel says, it is really important that we get your voices, that this is a journey that we go through together and we get as much feedback as possible. So we'll maybe try and do a follow-up to this in November once we've heard the results of this call. But we will also, try to have several opportunities at EPSC where we can discuss this and get as much input as we can from the community to make sure that we are prepared and we are representing you properly as we go forwards.
Thank you both. We are spot on the hour, so well done for keeping us perfectly to time. Thank you everybody for coming. I don't see any further questions, so I think we can take this conversation offline. Just to echo what Anita said, if you want to get in contact with the team behind this work, then infrastructure@europlanet.org is the place to go for that. If you forget that, there's always the contact form on the Europlanet website, or you can write to the executive office at europlanet@europlanet.org, and it will be triaged through the network from there. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for giving up the time out of your day. Okay, until our next webinar session, thanks everybody, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Callum.
Yeah. Thank you, Callum.
See you later. Bye.